Good afternoon. Welcome to the first of our 2023 Just IT Women in Tech webinars. Today, we are here to inspire you to take up a career in technology by listening to our panel of speakers. You're going to find out what it takes to become a data analyst at EasyJet, how to start up your own marketing agency, and learn more about a career path that led to one of our panelists becoming a senior IT leader at the construction company Kia Group. During the webinar, you will listen to the experience of 3 apprentices as they walk you through a typical day and explain how they applied for their apprenticeship job roles. If this is your first time joining a webinar, no need to worry about being on camera or speaker. You are all on listen-only mode. The webinar is being recorded, so everyone registered will be sent a copy after the event, and we'll post the recording on YouTube so you can share with friends and family. My name is Julianne. I'm an account director here at Just IT, and I will be hosting the webinar alongside my colleagues, Karina and Leah. Before we start, I want to highlight a statistic. According to a recent survey by PricewaterhouseCoopers, only 27% of A-level and university female students surveyed said they would consider a career in technology, compared to 61% of males, and only 3% said it was their first choice. I'll leave you to think about that statistic whilst I walk you through our panel. On the panel, we are joined by Senior Data Analysts Eleanor and Nicoletta at EasyJet, Sam Coghlan, Business Development Director at Kia Group, and Katie Street, Founder of Street Agency in Tamba. Our apprentices are Samantha, Data Apprentice at Chaucer Group, Rhiannon, an IT Support Apprentice at Runshaw College, and Tashni, who's completing a digital apprenticeship at PEPS Limited. If you have a question at any time during the webinar, just type it into the chat box and one of the team will respond. Keep an eye on the chat box, as we will be posting useful links to help you after the webinar has finished. Welcome to all of you. Samantha, Data Apprentice in London at Chaucer, a specialist reinsurance company. Huge congratulations on securing your apprenticeship, and thanks for joining us on the webinar today. We're really excited to speak with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Samantha. What made you want to go and do a data analyst apprenticeship?
I had no idea what I wanted to do after school, but I knew I didn't really want to go to university. So I started looking into my options for what I could do post A levels, and I found out about the Chaucer Data Apprenticeship Scheme. I was inspired by my aunt to look into a career as a data analyst, as she is one herself. I wanted to find an apprenticeship that would challenge me to think critically and develop and utilize problem solving skills. And with a bit more research into data analyst apprenticeships, I was delighted to see that Chaucer had one that suited me perfectly.
And you're 8 months into your apprenticeship now, so what have you covered so far in your job role?
In my role so far, I have covered so much. I have been given hands-on experience using a tool, Tableau mainly. Tableau is a data visualization tool which allows users to explore data and build dashboards which can be used in businesses to enable data-driven decisions. Um, for anyone that doesn't know, dashboards are basically a visualization tool which allow businesses to typically track, analyze, and display data and key performance indicators, that kind of thing. I have been using Tableau to optimize existing dashboards for our company. I would typically meet with key functions within our business to discuss changes they would like to see implemented in their dashboards, and I will make those changes implemented to create improved visualizations which are more insightful, which then allow our teams to make better business decisions faster.
Thank you, Samantha, and thank you for picking up on what Tableau is. So some people on the call today might have heard the word Tableau. You might have heard the word Power BI. What we'll do is we'll put some links into the chat, so just to give you a little bit of an overview on those visualization technologies, because they're so linked to the data analyst or any data roles, anyone working in data. So Samantha, what does the typical day look like for you?
A typical day. A great benefit working at Chaucer is that we have the hybrid working model. So I have the options of working from home or in office in our office based in London. My day typically starts around 9 a.m. with me going through emails and checking my calendar and schedule, so I am well organized for the rest of my day. Around 10 a.m., I have a quick daily Microsoft Teams chat with my manager where we discuss my main objectives for the day and the progress of my apprenticeship. I normally take my lunch around 1 p.m. and take advantage of the many market food stalls that are on offer around our offices if I'm working in office in London. Um, Otherwise, I just grab a lunch. And on Fridays, I have a day dedicated to my apprenticeship studies. So I will only look at things like my portfolio, modules, or any other things related to my apprenticeship.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know, Samantha, it takes a huge amount of confidence to speak out on a webinar like this, and we really appreciate you coming on and inspiring others. Samantha's staying here on the chat to answer any questions. So please put your questions in for Samantha. She's new to this apprenticeship. She's in there for 8 months now, and she can talk about all of what she's doing and really help you with thinking about moving into data. Karina, just on the chat, do we have any questions coming in so far?
Yes, we do. We have a question that's come in. What advice, Samantha, would you give a school leaver wanting to do a data apprenticeship?
I would say persistence, really. If this is what you want, absolutely go for it. I personally, obviously I was inspired to be a data analyst by my aunt, but for my A levels, I did sociology, drama, and philosophy. So subjects completely unrelated to kind of the data world. Although I I acquired skills from each of those studies, which I could implement. But the point I'm trying to make is just if you want this, absolutely go for it. No matter what your background is, what you've studied, you can absolutely do it with persistence and motivation.
Absolutely. I think it's a really valuable piece of advice. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Samantha. Let's move on to Rhiannon. So IT apprentice at Renshaw College. Rhiannon, you work at the college on the service desk, the IT service desk. Many of our listeners may not know what a service desk is. Can you give us a little bit of explanation?
Yeah, so we have 16 people that are on the IT services team as a whole, and I would describe the service desk as the first point of contact for everything IT. So we have various different methods of communication that we have available to students and staff. So they can come in person to see us. If, for example, they have an issue with their laptop, they might want us to look at it in person for them. We also have the option for them to contact us over the phone, and then we'll usually remote in to their computer so we can have a look at any issues that are going on there. They also can email us as well. A lot of people like to do the traditional email because they're obviously familiar then that it's definitely come to us successfully. And we also have a ticketing system as well, where people can log tickets themselves about any issues that they're experiencing, and we'll sort that out. So the first thing I would recommend to anyone that's wanting to become a service desk operator is that you've got to be very organised. As I've just mentioned, with all those different channels of communication, it can get quite chaotic if it's not managed effectively. So it's very important that you're able to remain organised and keep on top of everything. The other thing I would say is that it's very important to be a good collaborator. Our team is fantastic at, talking to each other about any issues that we're experiencing in terms of a problem that comes in. So we'll discuss between us and then, come up with the best solution for the customer. Some examples of tickets that I've received recently were requests for iPads. So I would set up an iPad, for example, for our sports department. So then they could film their matches and then, they could film that effectively. Another request that you get a lot is account unlocks and password resets. And this isn't the case for all IT departments, but we also deal with first aid calls. So someone will say someone's been injured, say on site, and then we will then radio over to our first aid team to speak to them about that. We deal with CCTV footage requests. So, you know, if there's been an incident on site, I might review some CCTV footage to figure out what happened there. And we also deal with cleaning and caretaking requests as well. So there's a lot to do, but it provides a great variety to the day.
I was about to say, it's such a varied role, and thank you for describing it in such detail. Again, anyone that's interested in what Rhiannon's saying here, just pop a message in the chat. We can ask her further questions. But I was looking at your career history, Rhiannon, and you completed a BTEC in creative media, studied TV and radio at university. What made you want to explore IT as a career?
Well, when I actually left university, I originally moved into a role as a learning technologist, which is basically where you create course materials for various different programs. It was a lot of online stuff for me because it was obviously around the time of the pandemic when I started. But yeah, essentially through that, I learned sort of two things, which was one, that I really like working in education. And second of all, although I do obviously pride myself on my creative abilities, I really liked becoming a problem solver. Often we'd be putting the course content onto a learning platform called Moodle. And then people would say, oh, there's been this technical issue that's happened with it. Are you able to sort it for me? And I found that being able to be the person to go in and have a look at that and figure out why something wasn't working was really satisfying to me. So yeah, I think just through my past experiences, I've learned, you know, what works for me and what maybe I don't want as much. And I found that IT is a great career for the things that I'm looking for.
Thank you, Rhiannon. And would you recommend an apprenticeship to someone wanting to learn new skills in the technology industry?
Absolutely. I think with an apprenticeship, you get the best of both worlds, really. As I was saying with my past as a learning technologist, there's some crossover between media and being a learning technologist in the design aspects. But one of the things that I felt like was lacking in my last career was the ability to learn the fundamentals of how the industry worked, really. And through doing this apprenticeship with Just IT, I'm confident by the end of it, I'll know about so many different areas of IT. And then I'll be able to confidently say to customers, oh yeah, I've heard about that. I've learned about networking in my apprenticeship. And therefore, you know, you're able to just talk to them more confidently as a result of that. I think also as well, you know, the mentorship that I've been given through Just IT, my mentor Phil is fantastic and he's always there to answer questions from me. So yeah, I think an apprenticeship is great because it gives you the opportunity to learn, but also to, you know, put your learning into practice in person at work as well. So.
And just to add to Rhiannon on that side, Rhiannon's got a very supportive environment at the college to help mentor her as she started out on this apprenticeship and day-to-day work at Renshaw. So we've heard the experience of Samantha on data apprenticeships. We've heard Rhiannon talk about IT support role. Karina, over to you on digital marketing.
Thanks, Julianne. And I'm going to be speaking to Tashneh now. Tashneh is a digital marketing apprentice at PET. PET is a fast-growing specialist lifestyle marketing agency that helps businesses attract, convert, and retain more customers within the health and wellness industry. So welcome, Tashneh. And firstly, can you tell us a little bit about your role there and what you enjoy mostly about working at PET?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Tashneh, as I've been introduced. So yeah, at PEP we've worked with small scale and global businesses such as Planet Organic, Trip and HIMS. So that's ranging from the US, UK, I think all over the place really. And I would say that at the moment, I'm very focused on my 20% off the job learning. And making sure that it's a very balanced situation going on. So there's a lot of being quite organized and making sure that I'm tracking my learning. But at PEP, I tend to separate my day into mornings and afternoons. So in the mornings, I tend to do PEP marketing, which is focusing on SEO and auditing our marketing strategies at the moment. So that's quite a lot of LinkedIn, a lot of making sure that what's going out is on point and that is efficient, and making sure that we're reeling in our clients through that lead generation process, that sort of side of things. And then in the afternoons, I tend to focus on client delivery. So that's working with our clients such as Planet Organic and the ones I've mentioned before, and making sure that their email campaigns are being built the way that they had asked us to. So that's following the brief. So it's a very structured day, I would say, because it helps me work better once I've structured the morning or afternoon. But what I enjoy most is definitely having a space where I'm able to communicate my ideas and then being heard by my team members. And I'm very supported at PEPT. And that's something that has helped me develop my skills further and allow me to really push my boundaries, I would say, in a good way, and challenge me to really learn more effectively being in this sort of space.
Absolutely. It sounds like it's structured, but there's a lot of variety to your role by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
You've touched on support there. Can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of your support in your role, whether, your line manager, your coach?
Yeah. So I have my line manager. She's, I would say, extremely supportive when it comes to making sure that I understand what I'm doing. So the training that I've had internally has been spectacular in the workplace. I feel very confident what I'm doing because I'm always briefed before doing a particular task. And I also have a space to, even though obviously I'm not going to go out my way to make mistakes and do things wrong, but in the case that it does happen, I'm always shown how to do it the correct way. And really just all of my team members support me in different ways, and I'm able to ask them questions and they're always there to help when there's any problems. And in terms of the apprenticeship side of things, so my support mentor has been very helpful, because there has been a case where I felt quite overwhelmed with balancing work, because as an apprentice, I'm sure everyone else here on the panel understands, as you are doing you're going further in your apprenticeship, you notice that there's more work to be done, and balancing that 20% of the job learning with work can become quite challenging. But my support mentor has been so helpful in terms of showing me how to organize my time much better using different tools. So that's been spectacular. And working with my tutor as well has been extremely helpful when it comes to helping me organize my portfolio side of things.
Lovely, thank you. Challenging but rewarding.
Yes,
I bet.
Definitely.
Thank you, Tashneh. Just a question I think would be really useful for viewers watching that potentially are interested to get into digital marketing, but not quite sure what the actual role entails when it comes to sort of marketing campaigns, for an example. Can you give us an example of a marketing campaign you've worked on recently?
Yeah, so recently I worked on this Q4 webinar, so Q4 planning webinar with my team. And that was a sort of a last minute decision because we had realized that our marketing process wasn't really working. So we nailed the middle of funnel marketing process. So that would be sort of those that are already engaged in what we're doing. So those in our email newsletter list. So we nailed that side of things, but in terms of top of funnel, so acquisition, where people have found us or trying to get new leads or new clients to know who we are. So that would be marketing on LinkedIn, etc. We found that we needed to do more of that in order to get more people into the middle of funnel part of the marketing funnel. So I found that we ended up deciding last minute to create this new webinar that people would love, hopefully, fingers crossed, because we were in need of something that would drive that awareness of our brand. And I found it quite challenging in a good way. It was very helpful for me to be pushed to do something that would have to be at a faster pace, had a tight deadline, because it then helped me organize myself much better. I learned how to plan in a more efficient way, and also organize my time, and time management had to be spot on in order for this to go through. So, and in the end, it worked out quite well. We had a lot of people that were put into our newsletter list, and now we can nurture them at all stages of the funnel, now that they're sort of on their way through that funnel. So that was my
Absolutely.
favorite.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been really insightful. There are lots of activity in the chat box, which is good to see. We do have a question that's come through, Tashneh. Best advice you would give someone to help land a digital marketing apprenticeship role?
I love that question. I really do. So I would say I came from having no experience when it came to digital marketing. I barely knew how to use Google Docs occasionally.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really tough.
Impressive.
But I was like, I know that I wanted to go into this sort of realm of digital space. And I would say definitely try to sign up to a few boot camps if you can. I signed up to 2 free boot camps whilst I was unemployed. And one was 12 weeks, which was extremely helpful because we had assignments and teamwork activities, team building that now helps me, and I can apply those skills that I learned in the current situation I'm in, which is my PEP. So that's been really helpful. And I would say, yeah, try to get as much free knowledge and free information as you can, which is boot camps. I know Google, I don't know if they still have this, but the fundamentals of digital marketing course, things like that. Just try to find as much free resources as you can and build from there.
That's really good advice. Thank you, Tashneh. I think that's all we've got time for at the moment with Tashneh, but we do have the chat box that's open for all 3 apprentices to answer any questions. So please do keep the questions coming in. And I'm going to hand it back over to Julianne.
Thank you, Karina. And just on those links for the training, like Google Garage, etc., what we'll do is we'll get Leah to send those links out after the event today to share with you some free training courses to help you if you're looking at, well, data, IT, and digital marketing. So keep those chat box questions coming in. All 3 apprentices are here to answer. So now we want to hear from our panelists, Elna, Nicoletta, Sam, and Katie, to find out more what it's like to work in technology and how they got there. Eleanor, let's start with you. Can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you do at EasyJet?
Yeah, so as you can see from the slide, I'm a senior data analyst at EasyJet. So what I'm usually doing is analyze a variety of data. So in our company, we have revenue data from tickets, bags, or the ancillaries, as we call technically. And also we deal with data regarding scheduling, flight scheduling. And apart, of course, dealing with data. So as you can imagine, we usually prepare queries to maybe connect data, get information out of this data, and then analyze the data themselves as they are. Usually use this data that we build ourselves with the connections to prepare a dashboard usually. So we really work a lot with Tableau, as you can imagine. So we usually use this data and try to extrapolate information out of the data. So then of course, like when you build a dashboard, you have that freedom to try to showcase the information in the best way as possible. So also be a data analyst is really good for that, because you have really like that opportunity to express how you would like to transmit this information to your stakeholder. And looks like, your data analysis could be boring because we talk about maths, numbers, checking data, remove outliers, and whatever else can come out. But at the end of the day, it's really fun because you can actually build this visualization and always build something different, improve your technique. And yeah, this is actually what I like most of my job. If I need to choose one point, but yeah, pretty much this is what I'm doing. And also as a senior, to add on that, I also deal with more the managerial part of my role. So take care of also other people like new data analysts that don't have much experience, and also mentor people within our team. Like I usually help people also with Python, because as a data analyst, I have also this particular skill to also know Python, but of course, it's not essential to be a data analyst. That's not essential, but I also usually like to teach that as well and support people that need my help, and also present data to stakeholders. I'm actually that person in a team that actually has that contact with stakeholder and present the result and get the information out of them. Because at the end of the day, we need to satisfy someone with data, and we use Tableau as a tool for us to transmit the information. Otherwise, with just a data set, we can't really do much in our role. So that's actually is our key as a data analyst, I would say.
Oh, thank you, Eleanor. And just to pick up on the points, the technology points that you talked about there. So you mentioned about Python. So just to give the listeners a little bit of knowledge on that front, Python is taught, a programming language taught in schools at the moment. So if you've got children at a school, you might see them learning Python. It's a language that is associated with data analysts or data roles. So we'll get some chat links in about that, and there's some free Python courses to have a little bit more on if you wanted to start learning it. And also Eleanor mentioned about Tableau as well, which is something that was mentioned by Samantha at the beginning again, so that visualization technology. So these are technology names that you'll hear throughout this webinar today. Nicoletta, you've got a master's degree in climatology and meteorology. What made you want to work in data?
But this is data. I mean, of course, I don't know what you mean with master in climatology and meteorology and climatology. So meteorology and climatology is not to say, the weather on daily basis. It's more than that, of course. It's collect data, analyze data, see how the climate was before, and predict, forecasting the climate, short term or long term. It depends, of course, on the analysis. So it's data, actually. And this was what I started thinking about when I started thinking about data and analysis of data. As you saw, I was a teacher for several years. This is something that I really love it. Teaching mathematics, physics. My master is in physics. And also, so I was teaching science in general and maths. But then when I started my PhD, my master, I thought that it was a good opportunity to analyze data. I didn't know, and if I'm going back, several years ago, as you saw on my card, we had only Excel to use. And it was so hard to do statistics in just using Excel. By hand, it was so hard to do it. But now the people they have so many tools. One of the main one is SQL language. I didn't know about SQL language. It was not there. I mean, no one started using SQL. It was not born, how I say, 70 years ago. So it's very new for me. It was very new for me. I was starting by scratch, and this is my advice to the people. Don't be afraid. It's nothing comparing on what you have done so far. So for someone who loves mathematics, even for a little, who understands mathematics or statistics, even for a little, it's a good opportunity to start learning one of the languages. And if you would like to be a data analyst, if you are asking me, one of the main languages that you need to start is SQL. And if you are asking me, you need only few hours to start with the main things, the main commands in SQL. Then, of course, it's up to your the practice, the part of the practice that you are going to do, the time that you are going to practice on different tasks using SQL. And the second, of course, language is Python. So by doing my master in climatology and meteorology, I realized that meteorology is not just saying the weather. It's analysis of data. And this is the beautiful thing behind this master is analyze data and give the people, forecast the people and help the people to understand what is coming when they see the rain, what is behind the rain and what is after the rain, which is so strong and what that means for them in the future by analyzing data, depending on the parameters, depending on the time, depending on the country, on the city. It's several data behind this title of meteorology.
Thank you, Nicoletta. And just to say on those technologies, if you are moving into a job or looking to go into a data role, you will be taught how to use those different technologies. So it's good to have a little bit of understanding as to where they are, what type types of technologies are involved, but you would be taught those. So there's no need to worry if you haven't got those technical skills straight away. And especially on an apprenticeship, you'll be taught how to improve and enhance your Excel skills and moving on to the dashboards and Python, etc.
Of course, of course. And can I add something on that? And one more thing is, yes, you are going to be taught on all of the things. You need only to be flexible. You need to be open to accept this learning. Just that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you for that, Nicoletta. And Eleanor, back to you. You actually did an internship with Doc HQ. Would you recommend internship to people looking to start a career in data to get that work experience?
Yeah, I mean, like, I will say it depends. So because also for the apprenticeship, you need to choose a proper one. So also depend of, I think like the university can help a lot. So as you can see in my bio, I studied in Bologna, so in Italy, back in Italy. So for example, if you are like me and you want to an experience abroad, so like for me was from Italy to England, for me was an amazing experience. So it was that opportunity that brought me here. So potentially if I didn't do that internship, probably I wouldn't be here speaking with you. So that was like that the event that starts everything. So I would say honestly, I see here from all these panelists, really great apprenticeship. I think like you're doing a really good choice. But my apprenticeship wasn't exactly as I was expecting. Also because my company that I started back to that time was a startup, but a really fresh startup. So we talk about a startup without many data, a startup that is still in that position to grow the networking. So they were mainly focusing on finding new clients. So literally what I was doing, I was using Excel and fill up this Excel file with name of people to contact, which you can imagine is not like what I wanted to learn, but there is a but. I was happy to be there because I had that time to take that time where I was a bit bored maybe and learn something. So in fact, in the chat before I said that I learned Python as a first language because I knew looking to the market that Python is a really good language. So I just used that time where I was a bit like, I don't like what I'm doing to learn Python. So I just took my laptop, go around Google, as everyone we are doing, go on Google, like how to learn Python, where to write Python, all this kind of stuff. And then I spent like almost 6 months because my apprenticeship was for 6 months to learn Python, use data sets, try to understand how to work with that. And that was the only thing that I was able to do because also with Excel, I wasn't that good. Even now, honestly, like I'm not good in Excel. So like for everyone, like don't really focus on Excel because big companies that they have high technologies that they're really ahead, we don't really use Excel. So focus more on SQL and Tableau if you can. But if you want also Python is always a good point to add on your CV. So yeah, when I was doing this apprenticeship again, I just decided randomly I want to learn Python. And I was like, after this apprenticeship, I'm gonna be back home in Italy, back to my university, finish my last 3 exams, got the degree, and then who knows what is gonna happen. But actually, after like my first month of my apprenticeship, someone on LinkedIn messaged me and they were like, you are interested to find a job? I was like, I'm not sure because I need to study still. I don't have time. And then I was like, okay, let's try with some part-time, but wasn't possible for me to find any part-time. And then like there was a job that was full-time as I'm doing now that they contacted me and they asked me what I'm able to do. And I was like, I can use just Python. Unfortunately, I can't, I don't know anything else. And these people, they like me. So they actually interviewed me. I was like, okay. I went there, I did my interview. I show up my technical skills mainly, like not technical skills, like practically, more like theoretical technical skills, like what is a mean, how to calculate an average, what is this distribution of data or things like that. I was able to use Python and I found my job. So at the end of the day, even if the apprenticeship wasn't as I wanted, I found a job because I decided to spend that time and turn up the situation that wasn't optimal to my optimal situation. And then from there, everything is story now. And I'm here as a senior data analyst in EasyJet with also experience in SQL and Tableau. And if you have Python, don't forget that Python is an advanced coding tool, and SQL, I think, in my opinion, is easier. So if you know Python, for you learn SQL, it's gonna take, for me, it was 2 months or even less. So don't be afraid to learn new coding languages. Also myself, sometimes I'm still learning. I face myself to learn a bit of PySpark, which is really cool, combination of SQL and Python, but there are no limits on learning. So whatever language you know, just go for it. Just showcase that, just try, and then step by step, you're gonna learn something else, as I did. So yeah, again, it depends. Like sometimes it can go well, sometimes cannot, but don't refuse that. If you don't have experience at all, it never works, just go for it, because you can always find something to do at the end of the day and maybe find a job.
There you go. Good, just go for it, Eleanor's words there. And actually, you raise a good point about LinkedIn. For anyone that's on the webinar today that hasn't got a LinkedIn profile, that will really sort of stand you out there. Is to actually get yourself a profile on LinkedIn, so people will start to see you from a job perspective. And you can also join groups, follow technologists on there. We'll share some links after the call today. But it's a good way of developing a platform there, especially if you're looking at a new career path going forwards. Nicoletta, we'll just come back to you shortly, but first of all, I just want to check with Karina. How's the chat box going?
Yes, so we do have a question, and it's actually a question for you both. Do you get free flights for EasyJet flights, and what are the perks working at EasyJet? I think we're all interested in to know that.
Yes, sure, not free, but with reduced price, of course. And of course, it's one of the perks that we have, but it depends on the company, actually. But if you are asking for EasyJet, yes, we have. And this is another thing that we love at EasyJet. It's more flexible. It is giving to the people who are working for its company a lot, and it takes care of the people. Not only the customers, the people who are working for this company as well.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And Nicoletta, there are quite a few calls, chat box calls coming through now. Are you able to jump on that and just answer that on the data analyst side as well, please? And we'll maybe be able to catch up with you soon on the projects you're doing. First of all, I just want to go over to Sam at Kia Group. So Sam, you work for Kia Group. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your career path? Did you set out to work in IT after you left school, or have you had a similar pathway to Nicoletta and Eleanor?
Hi, afternoon, everyone. So I probably took a different path. I didn't necessarily set out to work in IT. I kind of stumbled into it, and the apprentices that are around today weren't when I left school. I'm that old. So I started in a IT training role, actually, sort of teaching people how to use word processing, because that was what there was at that time. Did an HNC in technology, and kind of got the bug for technology, and it was fairly new then. Home computing and sort of mainframes were sort of just beginning. So my career took lots of kind of twists and turns. I started off in IT training, moved into a consulting role in a technology company, which took me all over the world, really, which was great. And it gave me lots of opportunity and lots of insight into different technologies and different areas. And I found my passion on sort of running change programs. So how do you introduce technology into an organization? And I've kind of loosely followed that path as I've progressed through my career. So various sort of international roles, working in places like Japan and Hong Kong, and which were fantastic. And then came back to the UK and did a number of contract roles to really try different sectors, because I've purely been in telecoms and technology. So did some contract roles with the police, and then on the London 2012 games, which were both fantastic and very different and diverse, and gave me different perspectives on how people use technology and why they use technology and why it's important. And then I ended up at Kier and started my career at Kier as a sort of portfolio and change lead, and have progressed through Kier, and now I'm the business delivery director. So my role means that I look after all of the technology that faces into the business. So from a run and change perspective, how do we deliver against Kier's digital ambition, and how do we keep the business running from a technology perspective?
With your role at Kier Group involved in delivering new capabilities, can you tell us a bit more about the access control project you're currently leading on, and explain to the audience what that involves?
Yeah, sure. So Kier, for those who don't know, is a sort of leading infrastructure and construction company. So we build things like schools, prisons, bridges, roads, lots of things are built. And when you're building something, it's quite a dangerous environment. You've got lots of things moving around, possibly traffic, heavy machinery, and lots of people. So we need to control access into those sites and ensure that everyone who goes onto site is safe and able to work on that site. So we need some access control to make sure we know who's on site, we know that they've got the right skills, they've had their security briefing, etc. So we're rolling out a site access control system that is driven by biometrics. So it knows who you are based on your fingerprint. It knows if your training's up to date. It knows if you need to have some new health and safety training, or if some of your PPE, your personal protective equipment, is due to be renewed, and it can notify you of all of that. So we're rolling that across our sites at the moment, and it also enables us to get messages and inform staff on stuff that's happening across the broader group. So it's a really interesting project, but it's a great enablement, and it's a really simple way of using technology to remove what was a really arduous paper-based process where people had to sign in, someone had to check they had the right stuff. There was lots of intervention, and this has just smoothed all that and taken it away.
And what would you say to someone that's listening to you now talking about that project and feeling really inspired and wanting to, progress in the same way that you have? What would you say to them as to how they start?
So I think my advice would be curious. I think my career has been driven by curiosity, being interested in something and pursuing that. Embracing change. The one constant across any career in technology is going to be it's constantly changing. The world changes at a incredibly fast pace. New technologies are introduced, new challenges come in. So embrace that change, always learn. I think some of the other panelists talked about that. Don't be afraid to learn new things, be curious, and don't be afraid to go on a slightly different route to get to where you think you want to get to. I think sometimes the path through your career is not a straight path, and you have to take twists and turns, and sometimes they give you opportunities that you didn't expect, or open doors that you weren't expecting. So I think it's be curious, embrace change, and always learn would be my top 3.
Thank you for that, Samantha. Wise words there. And what we would say is anyone that's that's listening to Samantha speak now that has a question, pop it in the chat. Samantha's here to answer any of the chat questions. So if you are thinking a point in your working history, or just starting out and you're thinking about that, where do you go next? Use Samantha's advice. Connect with her on LinkedIn as well, and see how see what she's saying here to try and support you as you move forward. Karina, back over to you on the digital marketing front.
Lovely. Thanks, Julianne. Our next panelist is Katie. So I will be speaking to the lovely Katie Street. Katie is the founder of Street Agency and Tamba. Street Agency is an award-winning marketing agency here in the South, whilst Tamba is an academy dedicated to agency leaders to really help generate and retain new business. So very excited now to speak to Katie. So welcome, Katie, and thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're a very busy woman.
Yes, thank you. And I love that I really scared you all and nearly arrived rather late, but I was a minute early in time. I just couldn't get in. So hi everyone.
Wouldn't expect anything less, Katie. Now,
Yeah.
First of all, Katie, so what made you want to start your own marketing agency? I think it would be really useful for the viewers to listen in and to hear your background, your experience, and how you actually got into starting up your own agency.
Yeah, well, I'll start by going way back, because I did actually do an apprenticeship myself. So I have always been an advocate of apprenticeships. It's something, you know, if I'm really honest, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. It's really hard to pick a career path before you actually get experience in working. So for me, an apprenticeship made total sense, because it enabled me to work and learn and see if I enjoyed the environment that I was working at the time. So I actually started way back when, doing an apprenticeship in business, because I didn't really know what element of business I wanted to go into at that stage. And I guess where I got to, so the marketing agency that I run today, we're actually in a very unique space. We tend to work mainly with big marketing agencies themselves, helping them attract and win new clients, and or marketing tech companies. So people that you guys may know, people like, I don't know, BigCommerce or Shopify, Stripe are one of my clients, and we help them connect and build engaged audiences with hopefully the clients that they want to work with in the future. So we're in quite a unique space. We do work heavily with clients in the tech space, but I guess Street itself is not a tech company. We just help other tech companies attract and win new business with the clients that they want to work with. So I guess reason I wanted to go out on my own and do it is because I don't think there were many businesses that approached the marketing, approached new business and attracting and winning new clients from a marketing perspective. And then, of course, my other business, Tamba, is a tech company in its own right. We self-built that, and it teaches anyone who's interested in attracting and winning new clients how to do that themselves. So it is mainly focused around again, the marketing and the tech sectors, and specifically agencies. It stands for the Agency New Business Academy, but it is a tech platform in its own right that enables people to learn everything that they need to learn. It is actually a training, there's training courses, there's content that people can learn from to help enable them to own and manage their own, I guess, marketing and new biz pipelines. So we're very focused on marketing and new business. It's what I talk a lot about. I definitely would advocate some of the things the guys were talking about earlier in terms of really raising your profile on LinkedIn. But also, and I think, Samantha, you were just talking about this, having, not being scared of change and growth. I started out, my first ever job was working in advertising for a publisher called United Advertising. At the time, there was a car magazine, a little bit similar to Auto Trader, but before it was really techie. This was actually printed magazines, working for Exchange and Mart. And then I've gone on, I worked at really big magazines in London, like FHM and EMAP, so they own other magazines and titles like Grazia, and they're one of the biggest magazine publishers of the time. Then moved to work for drinks brands in sales and marketing roles, and then onwards from that have worked with various large scale tech and I guess marketing agencies that kind of lead strategies for end clients. So I've always kind of managed change. I think technology does move really, really quickly, so we've just got to stay ahead of the game.
Absolutely. That's really, really insightful. And what would you say you look for in someone that's wanting to, say someone wants to start to work at a digital agency? What would you say you look for someone to work at your agency?
Yeah, it's so hard. Definitely, I would always be checking them out on LinkedIn. So we've had 2 apprenticeships, Karina, that you've helped us organise here at Street. Really looking for someone who's kind of got that go-getter attitude, that is happy and wants to try and learn new things. For me, I probably, this isn't necessarily the right advice, but your LinkedIn profile and your attitude is going to be more important probably than your CV in a way. CV is important, but actually I don't even know how much longer people will have CVs. I mean, surely most people just go and check you out on LinkedIn. So making sure that and I will often also, because we do use a lot of the social platforms, look at what they're doing on their own social medias if I can access them. So being aware of how you're presenting yourself online, certainly on LinkedIn, but even on other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, for me is really important. If I've got someone applying for a role and they've got hundreds or tens of thousands of followers themselves on TikTok or Instagram, I know that they understand the algorithm, that they focus on that, and they're going to be a good employee for me. So really making sure that if you're interested in the marketing side of technology, making sure that your own social platforms are up to scratch and that you're working hard on your own stuff is going to really help you secure the right role.
Really good advice, really valuable. And Katie, you've obviously progressed in your career. What piece of advice would you give someone looking to start out their career in the digital and the tech space?
Oh gosh, one piece of advice. I guess, the biggest thing would probably be going back to those kind of social platforms, understanding what you want to achieve, and really making sure that if you're looking for a job in this space, that you have got your own platforms up to scratch, that you understand what's going on, that you're open to learning, that you're open to keeping up to date with what's happening with the platforms. There's some great people that you can follow. I probably should share these with you, Karina, but that really who give regular updates about what's happening. So keeping up to date and seeing what's going on, and making sure that there's LinkedIn, honestly, there's so much content on there that you can learn from. So get yourselves in a place where you really understand what's going on in the industry, what the trends are, what's happening, because I think that for me, as someone who is going to be interviewing, that's what I'm going to be interested in. What do you know? What can you tell me? How up to date are you? If you want a job doing that, you've really got to be spending the time researching and understanding it.
And that obviously shows that they've got that interest out, off the offset, I think, from having that online presence and having that knowledge, or just using it, I guess, upon themselves to go and do some research and go and, I don't know, set up something on Digital Garage or LinkedIn, and they've got that online presence. I think it's really important. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think? Why do you think getting more women in tech careers is so important?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Do you know what? It's crazy.
Where do you start?
Yeah, I know. Where do you start? I'm actually on a panel discussion at MadFest, which is a very, very cool marketing festival in London next week, talking about this, because sadly, something like 5% of tech companies in the UK are founded by women. I do think a lot of it is, we've inherited this over hundreds, whatever, however many years. It is something that has been inherited. I do think there needs, women play such a huge role in the world, and in buying and purchasing, and managing the houses, managing life. Like there's, we're on an equal playing field, and in fact, I think some of the stats show that females make more of the buying decisions than men do, and the tech platforms and everything that we do kind of drive a lot of that. So I think in order for us to make better decisions from a technology, from a marketing point of view, there have to be fairer boards, there have to be a fairer amount of women in kind of leadership and every kind of role within technology. So I think that is super important to me. And I think as we move forward, my biggest thing, and this is really specifically talking to women, is I do think a lot of it comes from our own limiting beliefs. So there are stats that say something like men will apply for a job if they've got 20% of the skills, whereas women will only apply for the job if they've got 80% of the skills. So I do think us just being a bit bolder, a bit braver, not having those limiting beliefs, putting yourself forward, doing the learning, shouting about your achievements and your accomplishments. This goes across the board, men and women, but I just think traditionally men have been a lot better at doing that than women. So I think if you really want a role in tech, in digital, don't be afraid to put your hand up. Don't be afraid to apply for jobs where maybe you don't have all of the skills, because your male counterparts will be doing that.
Definitely. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, no, that's great. And what piece of advice would you give, I don't know, to women, I guess, that were looking to go into the digital world? They don't know where to start. Like, where would they start? What would be their first step?
I think, again, the social platforms are going to give you so much. Like, go and start to follow some of the big, social agencies, start to listen to podcasts, start to understand what's going on in the digital arena, follow, hopefully, people like me, go and listen to, talks, whatever you can do. That first piece is going to be, being a little bit like a sponge. Join community networks that you can find on LinkedIn. There's so much content out there that you can really learn from. So I think my first step is, go and do your research, learn, listen, engage, understand, because I think that will then enable you to understand the kind of role in digital that might suit you. We've got, I didn't have this when I started my career, social channels didn't even exist. So I think we've got a huge advantage now. If you're curious about something and you want to get into a certain industry, you can actually spy on it and spend time there without having to even go and have a job. So I would definitely say, look at some businesses that are doing well in that space, go and follow them, engage with their content, look at what's going on, look at if it's something that you might like to be involved with.
Such great advice. Thank you, Katie. Okay, so it looks like we are up for time. So I'm going to leave it with there and hand over to you, Julianne.
Thank you, Karina, and thanks to all our panelists for sharing. And to the audience, please continue to submit questions into the chat. We've got 5 minutes left. Samantha, I've seen a question in, one for you, if you can respond back to that one on making yourself visible when going for an IT role or apprenticeship. We've spoken about IT support, we've spoken about digital marketing and data careers, but it's important to highlight the huge range of tech apprenticeships out there for anyone thinking of an apprenticeship as a way forward. Take a look at this slide and all of the different names. To undertake an apprenticeship, you need to be in a job. You can find a list of apprenticeship jobs on gov.uk, and we'll pop this link into the chat for you to take a look. The listing on gov.uk enables you to search by location, so you can look for an apprenticeship that's close to your home. Apprenticeships are open to anyone aged over 16. You may be thinking of applying after GCSEs or A-levels. Some of you may have finished school a while ago or even studied for a degree. You can still use apprenticeship to train, to help upskill or change career. Sam, just back over to you. Final question on your side. Again, the same question we asked before to Katie, but why do you think getting more women into tech careers is so important?
I share a lot of Katie's views, actually. I think it does give a balanced perspective. I think sometimes we are our own limiting factor. We think we can't understand the technology, and not all of the roles in IT are deeply technical. So you have to be mindful that not all of the roles are deeply technical. If you're listening to this thinking, I'm not really a techie kind of person, I saw one of the questions, do I need to be able to take a laptop apart? Goodness no, I don't know anyone who does that now. It's a very specialist IT engineer somewhere. So it's not about being a really kind of techie. Women can bring a much more balanced, rational. I find that if I'm running a project or working with a wider team, those different perspectives just challenge your thinking and bring that broader narrative to look at things from an end-to-end perspective. If you work with a team that is all one type of person, it doesn't even have to be gender, all technical, all non-technical, you get a very narrow view. You need those broad perspectives to bring the right mix of culture and ways of thinking. I do think there is nothing that limits you on gender. You're only limiting yourself on your willingness to learn and being curious. So don't be put off from a career in IT because you're not a deep techie. Be willing to sort of jump in. There's lots of different pathways that will take you into a role in this without being overly technical, and I don't think your gender is an influencing factor.
Thank you up for summing up this webinar. There's lots going on in the chat. We will make sure we will send out list of free training courses, technologies to follow, LinkedIn groups. We're sending that out after the webinar. But if your question today hasn't been answered, we will make contact on our follow-ups with this, but contact us direct. We've got the email address here, so pop your chat directly to us by email and we'll try and signpost you. We really hope you found it inspirational. I hope the speakers have sparked an interest in a career in technology. And once more, I'd like to say a huge thanks to today's apprentices, Samantha, Rhiannon, Tashni, and panelists, Sam, Eleanor, Nicoletta, and Katie. Thank you, everyone.